I'm Brandon, I'm 35, and I live in Portland with my son, Ryan. He just turned 10 last week, and I wish I could say it was a happy day for both of us. I wish I could tell you that we celebrated with laughter, family, and one of those long, noisy tables packed with people who love you. But if I'm being honest, and that's the point of writing this, I can't remember the last time my family showed up for me. Or for Ryan. And his birthday this year? It was the final nail in the coffin. For most of my life, I played the role of the understanding one. You know the type. The one who doesn't cause a fuss. The one who forgives without an apology. The one who gets left off the group chat, but still RSVPs to the reunion. That was me for years. And for a while, I convinced myself that keeping the peace was better than rocking the boat. That if I just kept showing up, eventually they'd notice. Eventually they'd include me. I just had to wait it out. But something changed after Ryan was born. I think becoming a dad cracked open a part of me I'd been burying for years. I started seeing the patterns. Who got attention, who got forgiven, who was always expected to give and never receive. And for the first time, I started to feel angry. Not explosive, yelling into a pillow angry. No, it was a slow burn. A tired kind of rage that just simmers and simmers until one day, you look around and realize you're the only one standing in the kitchen, and the fire alarm's been going off for hours. My sister, Megan, is the golden child. Always has been. She's 3 years younger than me, recently engaged, and absolutely the type to describe herself as a Santorini kind of girl in her Instagram bio. I could go on for hours about Megan's drama. The time she took our parents' car to Coachella and lied about it being stolen. The mysterious, lost tuition money from college that somehow reappeared as a Louis Vuitton bag on Facebook Marketplace. But let's just say, she was the kind of sibling you grow up learning not to compete with, because the game is rigged. She's the type of person who throws tantrums at brunch if her mimosa isn't the right temperature. But my mom? She sees a radiant young woman full of spark and ambition. She sees someone who deserves the world. And me? Well, I'm just the guy who works from home and should really try harder to make time for family events. It's been like this since we were kids. Megan would skip chores, and I'd get blamed for not helping her. She'd lie, and I'd get the lecture. I'd scrape together my allowance to buy my mom something for her birthday, and Megan would wrap up a candle from her closet and still get a kiss on the cheek and a "you know me so well." I thought that dynamic would change when we became adults. Spoiler, it didn't. I used to bring Ryan to family barbecues and get-togethers, but it became so soul-crushing to watch him try to connect with people who barely looked up from their phones. My mom would pinch his cheeks like he was a toddler and then spend the next hour fawning over Megan's dog like it had cured cancer. Megan's fiancé, Travis, once asked Ryan if he still watched cartoons, in the tone someone might use for asking if you still wet the bed. Ryan was 8. I stopped going after that. But even with all of this, I still believed, stupidly, that maybe things would be different for Ryan's 10th birthday. It felt like a milestone. A double-digit age. I'd been planning the party for over a month. Nothing crazy, just a backyard cookout, balloons, some homemade decorations, a rented bounce house. I even hand-painted a Jurassic Park sign because Ryan's obsessed with dinosaurs. He helped me bake cupcakes the night before, sneaking fingerfuls of frosting when he thought I wasn't looking. He was so excited. He kept asking if Grandma was coming, if Aunt Megan would bring her dog, if Travis would play basketball with him. And every time, I smiled and said, "Of course, buddy." They all said they're coming. Because they had. I texted everyone. Sent out a little evite. Got replies. Got thumbs-up emojis. "Wouldn't miss it," from Mom. "Sounds fun," from Megan. No one said they couldn't come. No one said they had other plans. I even sent a reminder the day before. So we cooked. We set up chairs, blew up balloons, put party hats on the dog. Ryan wore the Jurassic Park t-shirt I bought him and kept checking the front window every 5 minutes. At 2 p.m., he asked if we could open the chips. "Just in case they get hungry right when they get here," he said. At 3 p.m., he wanted to light one of the cupcakes for a test run. At 4:30, he stopped asking and just went quiet. I kept making excuses. Maybe traffic. Maybe someone got sick. Maybe they're running late. But by 6 p.m., with the sun starting to dip behind the trees and the bounce house deflated in the grass, it was painfully clear no one was coming. Not my mom. Not Megan. No cousins. No uncles. No one. I tried to hold it together. I didn't want Ryan to see how much it hurt me, too. So I forced a smile and said, "Hey, More cupcakes for us, right? He nodded and said he was tired. He went to his room without asking to open his gifts. I sat there at the patio table, the paper plates fluttering in the wind, half a dozen untouched burgers going cold on the grill. I kept staring at my phone. No texts, no calls, nothing. I felt like I was 14 again, getting grounded for something Megan did, wondering how I was always the one left holding the bag. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there thinking about all the birthdays I'd shown up for, all the holidays I spent running between relatives' houses, all the second chances I handed out like candy. I told myself it was worth it, that family mattered, that one day they'd appreciate me. But watching my son cry himself to sleep on his 10th birthday, that broke something in me. I was still chewing on that when, a full week later, I got the text from my mom. No mention of Ryan's birthday. No sorry we missed it. Or how did it go? Just a single message, with Megan CC'd in the group chat. Hey, Megan's wedding is coming up fast. We're so excited, 2 hearts, we need to lock in deposits for the resort in Santorini. It's $1,800 per person, so $3,600 for you and Ryan. Please Venmo me by Friday. No apology. No explanation. No acknowledgement of what they'd missed. Just a bill. I stared at that text for a long time. My hands were shaking, but not with sadness anymore. This time it was something colder. Something sharper. I didn't reply. I didn't even open the chat again. But I did open my laptop. And I did look up that resort in Santorini. Turns out, it's a very popular wedding venue. It books up fast. But guess what? There was 1 week available, right before theirs. And that's when the idea hit me. That's when everything started to click. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my mom. I didn't pick up at first. She left a voicemail. And her voice? Her perfect, unbothered tone was gone. She was shrieking. That's when I knew she found out. But I bet you're wondering what exactly I did. Let's just say, it was the kind of move you only pull when you're done playing nice. When you're done being forgotten. And I wasn't done yet. When I finally listened to the voicemail, I didn't even recognize her voice at first. My mom, who usually speaks in that everything's fine, passive-aggressive customer service tone, was full-on yelling. The message started with this long, exasperated sigh, like I had ruined her day, and then came the questions. Except they weren't really questions. They were demands, accusations, and theatrical gasps all rolled into one voicemail. Brandon, what is this? I just got off the phone with the resort, and they're saying the week before Megan's wedding is now fully booked? Fully booked? How is that even possible? Why would you do that? Did you even think about how this affects your sister's plans? This is her dream wedding, Brandon. You know that. Everyone's already bought plane tickets. You better fix this. Call me. No greeting. No how's Ryan. Not even a pause to breathe. She sounded like she was 1 more decibel away from calling the FBI. I played it twice. Then I sat there, phone on the table, letting it buzz every few minutes with another incoming message. First from Mom, then Megan, then Travis. Even my Aunt Linda jumped in at one point with a passive-aggressive, not sure what's going on, but family comes first, Brandon. Please remember that. Oh, now family comes first? I didn't reply. Not immediately. I wasn't ready to. Because the truth is, booking that resort wasn't just about petty revenge. It wasn't about ruining Megan's wedding. It was about drawing a line. A clear, bold, unerasable line between the person I had been for 35 years and the person I was finally becoming. Someone who wasn't going to be stepped on. Someone who wasn't going to watch his son be treated like a placeholder in a family photo. Someone who was done. But if you want the full picture, we need to rewind a bit. Because the Santorini trip, that was just the straw that snapped the last thread. The real tension? It had been building for years. Let's go back to Christmas, 2 years ago. Ryan was 8. That was the year he asked Santa for a telescope. He had this whole thing. Wanted to be an astronaut. Was obsessed with Mars. Even made a little cardboard rocket in his room. I saved up and bought him a decent beginner telescope. Nothing fancy, but it had a digital eyepiece and came with a constellation guide. I wrapped it up in silver paper and waited for his face to light up. Christmas morning, we went to my mom's like always. Megan was already there, in full Instagram-ready outfit, matching pajamas with Travis, holding court near the tree. Her gifts were piled high, designer bags, spa gift cards, even a new iPhone from my parents. Meanwhile, Ryan's gifts? A puzzle, a pair of socks, a book he already had. I had to bring his telescope with me because my mom said, "Oh, I didn't know what he was into. The same woman who had been forwarded Amazon wish lists for 3 years straight. She watched him open it like it was a mildly interesting exhibit at a museum. "Oh, neat," she said, before turning back to ask Megan about her latest yoga retreat. Later that afternoon, Ryan came up to me and whispered, "Is it okay if I go outside and look for Saturn?" He was so careful with the telescope, cradling it like it was alive. I helped him set it up on the back patio. That night, when we got home, he told me it was the best part of Christmas. Not the food, not the tree, just sitting outside in the cold, looking for stars, while the rest of the family passed around a bottle of wine and talked about Megan's new influencer deal. That's how it always was. Megan announced she was going to launch a podcast. Everyone clapped. Megan posted a reel about wellness coaching, and suddenly she's an entrepreneur. I'd share that Ryan got straight A's. I'd get a polite nod. Mention that I picked up a new client for my freelance work. Crickets. And the kicker? Whenever I brought any of this up, any of it, Mom would act like I was being overly sensitive. "You know I love Ryan," she'd say. "You're just imagining things." I wasn't. The year before that, Megan's dog had a birthday party. A dog, with a 3-tier cake, custom party hats, and a doggy photo booth. Ryan and I were invited, of course. Not to celebrate, more to fill the guest list. Ryan spent the whole afternoon sitting at the edge of the yard while everyone cooed over the dog in a tutu. No one asked him how school was. No one noticed when he left early with a stomachache. You'd think I'd learn. But it's hard to give up hope, especially when you're wired to believe that family is supposed to matter. Then came the wedding. The Santorini announcement dropped last spring. Megan made this elaborate slideshow for the family group chat, complete with music, inspirational quotes, and photos of sunsets. She titled it, "Our Love Story, From Tinder to the Aegean Sea Ringed." I'm not making that up. Mom was gushing. "Oh, this is perfect, sweetie. I always knew you'd get married somewhere elevated. So chic." I asked, "Is this going to be affordable for everyone?" "It's pretty far." I was trying to be practical. Megan responded with a laughing emoji and, "Well, it's our big day. People can choose their priorities." Then Mom chimed in, "Exactly. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Everyone will make it work." Everyone. Sure. Just like everyone showed up for Ryan. I considered not going. I really did. But Ryan was excited. He didn't understand the politics. He just liked the idea of a beach and fancy food and maybe, being included for once. So I started budgeting, cutting corners. I even considered taking on extra work to make the $3,600 happen. Then the birthday happened, and everything crystallized. They hadn't just forgotten. They'd chosen to forget. And they'd do it again. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to write a long text explaining how hurtful it was. I didn't want another conversation where Mom said, "Oh, don't make this about you." I wanted something they couldn't ignore. So I went on the resort's website. Santorini. Same one Megan had chosen. And I booked it. Same exact venue. Just 1 week before. I didn't say anything. I just made the reservation, got the confirmation email, and printed it out like a receipt from the universe. I told Ryan we were going on a vacation. Just us. Somewhere special. And that would have been the end of it, until Mom found out. I don't know how she discovered it. Maybe she called the resort to finalize Megan's details, and someone mentioned our reservation. Maybe Travis's parents got wind of it. All I know is that 2 days after I booked, she blew up my phone like a wildfire. After the voicemail, came the texts. "Why would you sabotage your sister's wedding? This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment for her. I'm disappointed in you." And finally, the one that really sent me spinning. "You're being incredibly selfish. Ryan will ruin the vibe if you're there before everyone else. Please think about your actions." Ruin the vibe. My son, my 10-year-old, who cried himself to sleep on his birthday because no one came. He would ruin their precious Instagram fantasy. That's when the last of my guilt evaporated. I realized they didn't see Ryan as family. Not really. Not the way they saw Megan's dog. Not the way they saw Travis's brunches and biceps. Ryan was background noise. An obligation. Something they could smile at in photos and forget the moment the camera clicked. I wanted to respond. I really did. I typed out paragraphs. Erased them. Typed again. But in the end, I sent one reply. Just 3 words. "See you there." And that was it. The next day, Megan called me. I didn't pick up. Then she sent a voice note. Her tone was syrupy sweet, at first. "Hey big bro, so I heard you booked the same resort as us. Kinda weird, Not gonna lie. I mean, what are the odds, right? Haha. But just so you know, that week is kinda sacred for us. It's our vibe, you know? Our energy. It might feel a little off if people are already there. Especially with, like, kids and stuff. She paused, then added, I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it, but maybe you could reschedule? Just a thought. Love you. No apology. No, sorry we missed Ryan's birthday. Just a passive demand wrapped in a glittery bow. I didn't respond. And that silence? It's driving them insane. Every day since, the messages have gotten more desperate. First came the bribes. We'll cover part of your flights if you push it back. Then the guilt trips. Your grandfather would be heartbroken if this causes drama. Then the threats. If you don't cancel, you're not welcome at the wedding. But here's the thing. They already made it clear we weren't really welcome. Not at birthdays. Not at Christmas. Not at any table where Megan was the centerpiece. So now? Now they'll know what it feels like. They'll walk into their dream resort with the white flowers and string lights and overpriced champagne. And they'll see me, and Ryan, tanned, happy, and already checked out. And that's where we are now. 1 week out from our trip. 1 week before Megan's wedding. The storm is still building. And I haven't told them the rest of the plan yet. But I will. Oh, I will. I thought I was prepared for the fallout. I'd rehearsed it in my head a dozen times. My mom crying, Megan whining, the aunts side-eyeing me in group chats. I thought the cold shoulder and backhanded texts were the worst they could throw at me. But I didn't expect them to come for Ryan. That's what broke me. I hadn't told him much about the wedding drama. Not because I wanted to lie. He deserves honesty. But because he's 10. He still believes family means something. Still believes birthdays matter. Still believes adults make things better, not worse. So I kept it light. I told him we were going to Greece for an early vacation and to celebrate his birthday properly. That we'd be staying at a beautiful place near the beach, with lots of swimming and ice cream, and maybe even a boat ride. He was thrilled. The same kid who spent his last birthday quietly peeling off dinosaur cupcake wrappers was suddenly bouncing off the walls, asking if he could learn Greek phrases and pack binoculars in case we see dolphins. For a few days, it was peaceful. We were back in our little bubble, just the two of us. And for once, I felt like I'd made the right call. Then I got the email. Not a text, not a voicemail, an actual email, sent to my personal account and CC'd to a few family members. The subject line read, Concerns regarding Brandon's Santorini booking. Family discussion needed. It was from Travis. Of course it was. It read like a corporate memo. Polite. Cold. Weaponized professionalism. Dear Brandon, it's come to our attention that your recent vacation plans overlap with Megan's wedding in Santorini. While we respect your right to travel, several members of the family are concerned about potential tension and optics surrounding your presence at the resort just prior to the wedding. To avoid any confusion or discomfort, we kindly request that you reconsider your travel dates or venue. Megan and I have invested significant time and resources in planning a once-in-a-lifetime event. We'd like the focus to remain on the celebration, not on any perceived drama. As this affects multiple people, we've included a few key family members in this email so we can find a resolution together. Thank you for understanding. Travis. Attached was a PDF itinerary of their wedding week. Floral borders, custom fonts, the whole 9 yards. Like a magazine spread titled, How to Guilt Your Brother 101. I stared at it for a while. Then I saw the names on the CC line. Mom, Aunt Linda, Uncle Paul, Megan, and Ryan. Yes, they'd CC'd Ryan's email address. I created that address when he started online school 2 years ago. It's monitored, tied to my parental account. But still, they CC'd a 10-year-old on an email trying to shame his father. I couldn't believe it. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Travis had copied me and meant to paste someone else's name. Maybe it was a glitch. But then the replies started coming in. Megan responded first. Thanks, babe. I just don't get why Brandon would do this. Like, what message is he trying to send? Also, is Ryan even going to be able to enjoy himself? This isn't Disneyland. It's a wedding venue. Just saying. Then Aunt Linda. This is very disappointing. We've always made room for you, Brandon, even when you chose to isolate yourself. But involving a child in a passive-aggressive act? That's beneath you. Beneath me. As if they hadn't spent the last decade acting like Ryan was invisible. I was shaking. Not out of rage, not yet. It was that surreal, frozen feeling you get when something crosses a line so clearly that your brain just pauses. My heart dropped when I thought about Ryan reading any of it. Fortunately, the parental settings blocked outside emails from unknown senders unless I approved them. The message was still pending in his inbox. But they tried. They tried to shame me through my son. That's when something in me broke. Clean, sharp, final. It was like I'd spent my whole life stretching a rubber band, twisting myself around their wants and moods and opinions, and now it had finally snapped. This wasn't just about Ryan's birthday. This wasn't just about Santorini. This was about years of being overlooked, minimized, erased. And now they were dragging my son into it. The one person I had sworn to protect from exactly this kind of hurt. I didn't reply to the email. Not yet. I needed to sit with it first. I needed to think. So I did the one thing that always clears my head. I went for a walk. It was late. Just past 10 p.m. Ryan was asleep. The streets were quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your footsteps sound like thunder. I walked for nearly an hour, looping around our neighborhood, replaying every insult, every brush-off, every moment I'd swallowed to keep the peace. And I remembered something. It was from when I was 12. Megan had borrowed my Game Boy and dropped it in the pool. I'd saved up for it all year. She told our mom I had left it on the diving board. I got grounded for irresponsibility. She got ice cream. And when I cried, Mom told me, "Stop being dramatic. You're older. You need to be more mature." That was the beginning. That was the script I kept following. Be more mature. Be the better person. Be the one who understands. But no one ever asked Megan to grow up. I got home, sat down at my desk, and opened a blank email. I typed, "To be clear, Ryan was not supposed to be CC'd. That alone speaks volumes. Please do not contact my child again. We are keeping our travel plans. You've made it clear, repeatedly, where we stand in this family. Don't worry, I've finally heard you." Then I hit send. The next day, the calls started again. First Mom, then Megan, then a FaceTime request from Aunt Linda. I ignored them all. Then Mom showed up at my house. She didn't even knock at first. Just stood at the door, texting me, "I'm outside," like we were in the middle of a casual coffee run. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. She looked frazzled. Not her usual put-together self. Hair unbrushed. No lipstick. Wearing the same cardigan I'd seen her wear at Thanksgiving. "I just want to talk," she said, hands up like I was holding a weapon. "I'm listening," I said, blocking the doorway. She sighed dramatically. "Why are you doing this? You're tearing the family apart. Megan is devastated. I'm trying to be patient with you, Brandon, but this is getting out of hand." "Tearing the family apart?" I repeated, blinking. "You mean by taking my son on a vacation?" "You know what I mean," she snapped. "The timing, the place, the message." I stared at her. "What message, Mom? That my son deserves the same kind of joy Megan's dog gets? That maybe he matters too?" Her face tightened. "Don't be ridiculous. This isn't about Ryan. This is about you hijacking your sister's moment." That did it. "Her moment," I said, stepping out onto the porch. "You missed Ryan's moment. All of you did. Not a single call. Not a single card. And you have the nerve to call me selfish." "You didn't remind us," she said quickly. "You always used to send reminders." "I did," I said. 3 days before. And again the morning of." She looked away. And for a second, I thought she was going to apologize. I really did. But instead, she said, "Well, things have been hectic. You know, Megan's wedding has been taking up all our energy. And Ryan's just a kid. He'll get over it." That was it. That was the betrayal. Not the email. Not the CC. Not the fact that no one showed up. It was hearing my own mother say my son's pain was just background noise. He'll get over it. As if he hadn't already learned to expect nothing from them. I stepped back inside. "Please leave," I said. She opened her mouth, maybe to protest, but the door was already closing. That night, I sat Ryan down and told him the truth. Not all of it, but enough. I told him we were going to Santorini, and that some people might not be happy about it. But that didn't matter, because he mattered more. He nodded slowly. "Is it because they don't like us?" I felt something twist in my chest. "No," I said, choosing my words carefully. "It's because they don't know how to show love the right way. But that's not your fault. And it's not mine." He looked at me for a long time, then said, "I'm still glad we're going." "Me too," I said, and I meant it. But the story doesn't end there. Because the wedding is still coming. And they're still planning something. I can feel it. And so I started planning too. Let's just say, They're not the only ones who know how to make a statement. After that night with Ryan, something inside me shut off, and something else turned on. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is hot, loud, chaotic. It wants to fight. But what I felt now was cold, quiet, a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. The kind of stillness that happens when you realize no amount of effort, no amount of forgiveness, no amount of swallowing your pride will ever fix a broken bridge that only you've been trying to maintain. It's like you're standing there with a hammer and nails, trying to patch things up plank by plank, while the other side of the bridge is being lit on fire by people sipping wine and saying, "Why are you so dramatic?" I didn't reply to anyone after that. I didn't respond to texts, emails, voicemails, or the increasingly absurd group chat updates from my family. I watched the messages pile up from a distance, like observing traffic from the safety of your window. Detached. Numb. But numbness can be dangerous too, because the pain is still there. It just settles deeper, quieter. And for the first time since all this started, I felt alone. Not physically. Ryan was still with me, of course, and we were closer than ever in some ways. But emotionally, I felt like I had stepped off a cliff and was still waiting to hit the ground. Because here's the truth people don't talk about when it comes to family betrayal. It doesn't feel like being stabbed. It feels like being forgotten. And that cuts deeper than anything. I started having trouble sleeping. My mind would race at night, replaying every moment of disrespect like a highlight reel of humiliation. I'd wake up at 2 a.m., heart pounding, thinking about Ryan's face as he looked out the window on his birthday. That blank, confused expression, like he was trying to do the math, like maybe he had done something wrong. I couldn't shake it. I'd go into the kitchen, pour a glass of water, stare out into the dark. I didn't cry, not once, but I wanted to, and maybe that was worse. One night, I opened a photo album, an actual one, not on my phone. One of the last physical things I had from my dad. He passed away when I was 20. Cancer. Quick, brutal. He was the only one in the family who saw Megan for who she really was. He used to call her Hurricane in a tiara. He said it with affection, but also with warning. He'd pull me aside sometimes and say, "You're the anchor, Brandon. You hold things down. Just don't let them drown you." I didn't understand what he meant back then. Now I do. I flipped through the album, birthdays, school plays, one vacation to Yosemite where I was about 9, standing next to a campfire with marshmallow goo on my chin. My mom had written a note under the photo, "Brandon's first fire." So proud of him. I stared at that line for a long time. So proud of him. When did that stop? At what point did I go from someone she was proud of to someone she tolerated? I closed the album and went back to bed. The next morning, I dropped Ryan off at school and sat in the car for 15 minutes in the parking lot, just staring at the steering wheel. I kept thinking I'd cry, or scream, or feel something. But instead, I pulled out my phone and opened notes. And I started planning. Not revenge. Not yet. Just peace. An exit plan. Because I realized I didn't need to win. I didn't need to prove anything to them. What I needed, what I had always needed, was to stop playing a game where the rules changed depending on who was winning. So I started by deleting the group chat. Not muting. Deleting. It felt ceremonial. Then I blocked Travis, and Aunt Linda, and Uncle Paul, one by one, like trimming dead branches off a tree. My mom and Megan, I left them unblocked. Not because I wanted to talk to them, but because I wanted them to see what it looked like when I stopped answering. That same day, I got a call from Megan's wedding planner. Yep, her planner. A chipper-sounding woman named Claire who said, "Hi, Brandon. I'm so sorry to bother you, but we're finalizing the guest layout for Megan and Travis's big day, and we just wanted to confirm. Are you still attending the ceremony?" It took me a second to process. She kept going. "I know there's been some confusion, but we'd love to have a final count, and Megan mentioned you might still be coming. We're trying to reserve the seating around the pool deck. Super exclusive, and she said your presence would be, quote, a disruption if not handled early." I laughed. Out loud. Not because it was funny, but because of the sheer audacity. She waited, awkwardly. "I won't be attending the wedding," I said flatly. "And if you speak to Megan, let her know I said thanks for the birthday card she never sent." The planner went silent. Then quietly said, "Of course. I'll mark you as declined." I hung up. Later that night, Ryan and I made lasagna together. He wore an apron 2 sizes too big, humming to himself while carefully placing noodle sheets. I tried not to stare, but there was something healing about watching him concentrate so hard on something so small. Are we still going to Greece? He asked casually. I nodded. Yep. We leave in 2 weeks. Cool, he said. I want to try octopus. Just once. I laughed. Deal. But if you hate it, we're getting pizza immediately after. He grinned. Even if I like it, I still want pizza after. And just like that, the weight on my chest loosened. He was okay. He was still okay. I wasn't. Not yet. But I would be. A few days later, Megan tried a new tactic. She posted a story on Instagram. A countdown to our Santorini fairy tale type thing. But this time, it wasn't her usual soft filters and bridal poses. This time, the caption read, "Can't believe some people are trying to ruin this for us. Not everyone's invited to the fairy tale. Victory hand ring hashtag Sister Sarah Wild hashtag family drama." And the background? A screenshot of a group text, with my name cropped out, but the timestamps visible. Anyone with half a brain could figure it out. I didn't respond. I didn't comment. But I took a screenshot and saved it, because part of me had started planning something after all. Not revenge for the sake of pettiness, but something Ryan would one day understand. Something that would show him, without question, that silence doesn't mean surrender. That kindness isn't weakness. And that walking away doesn't mean you lost. It just means you finally know what you're worth. I booked our airport shuttle. I confirmed the passport appointments. I triple-checked the hotel details. And quietly, without saying a word to anyone else in the family, I submitted a photo of me and Ryan for the same resort's welcome board. They had this digital screen in the lobby. Apparently, guests could submit a picture for a welcome, family name, banner upon arrival. I sent one of Ryan holding up his telescope on our balcony last summer. He looked proud, confident, joyful, exactly how I wanted him to feel walking into that resort. Even if it meant Megan would see it on the board a week later and choke on her overpriced rose. Let her. Because I wasn't trying to ruin anything. I was trying to protect something. And that meant, for the first time in my life, choosing myself. Choosing Ryan. Choosing peace over performance. Letting the world burn behind me if it meant my son could finally feel like he was enough. But the story doesn't end here. Because just when I thought they couldn't sink lower, they did something I never expected. And that's when I knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. The change didn't come all at once. It was subtle at first. A shift in posture. A clearer mind. Deeper sleep. I stopped waking up with a clenched jaw. I stopped checking my phone with dread. I stopped rehearsing fake conversations in my head. Conversations where I explained myself, defended my choices, begged to be understood. I no longer needed them to understand. That was the beginning of my rise. It wasn't dramatic. There was no inspirational music swelling in the background. Just a quiet, steady realignment of who I was and who I wanted to be. Not for them, but for me. For Ryan. For the life we could build that didn't rely on approval from people who only ever saw us as background noise. I started pouring that energy into our lives. Into the things I could control. My freelance work had been steady for a while, but I'd always played it safe. Taking on lower-paying clients, undervaluing my time, over-delivering for people who treated me like a vending machine. Not anymore. I raised my rates. I cut out the time wasters. I put together a small portfolio and started reaching out to bigger clients. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 new contracts. 2 of them were long-term retainers. I didn't even celebrate at first. I just stared at the numbers on the screen, thinking, is this what it feels like to stop apologizing for your own worth? Turns out it is. With the extra income, I started putting things aside for Ryan. Finally opened that $529 college savings account I'd been putting off. I bought us both new luggage for the trip. I even replaced the washing machine that had been slowly dying for a year and a half. I didn't realize how much I'd been operating in survival mode until I wasn't anymore. Ryan noticed too. He started smiling more, sleeping better. He'd come home from school with drawings of Santorini, blue domes, boats, stick figures with speech bubbles that said, Opa, and I like octopus. He was counting down the days on a whiteboard in his room. He even started packing a week early. Every night he'd take things out, rearrange them, put them back. He made me promise to pack his telescope, even if we had to leave behind our own shoes. I want to see the stars in Greece, he said one night while brushing his teeth. They probably look different there. They do, I said, though I wasn't sure. But you'll still recognize them. He nodded. Good. Then it'll feel like home. That hit me. He wasn't just excited about a vacation. He was craving belonging. And he'd already stopped expecting to find it at home. That lit a fire under me. I started looking into schools in other states. Just for fun at first. But then I saw a charter school in Colorado with a science-focused curriculum and an astronomy lab. It had great reviews. Small class sizes. A wait list. I put us on it anyway. I wasn't committed to moving yet. But for the first time, it didn't feel impossible. It didn't feel like I was trapped. If this whole mess had taught me anything, it was that staying somewhere just because it's familiar is not the same as being rooted. Familiarity is not the same as family. And speaking of family, they had gone quiet. Or so I thought. No texts. No emails. Not even subtweets or snarky Instagram captions. For nearly a week, it was radio silence from their end. It should have felt like peace. But it didn't. It felt like the calm before something else. Still, I didn't waste time worrying. Because we were finally in the window of our trip. The morning of our flight, Ryan woke up before the sun. He was already dressed, backwards t-shirt, mismatched socks, hair wild, but he looked so excited I didn't even correct him. We loaded our bags, made it to the airport in plenty of time, and breezed through security. And when we boarded the plane, Ryan gripped my hand and whispered, "This is going to be the best thing we've ever done." And I believed him. The flight was long. 2 connections. But Ryan never once complained. He watched movies, took pictures out the window, and kept asking questions about the Aegean Sea like I was some kind of expert. We landed in Santorini just before sunset. It was everything you imagine and more. The air smelled like salt and stone. The buildings glowed orange and pink in the setting sun. There was this stillness in the sky that I hadn't felt in years. A silence that didn't feel empty, but full. We got to the resort, and the concierge greeted us with fresh lemonade and cold towels. I handed over my ID and reservation confirmation. The man behind the desk smiled wide. "Ah, Mr. Brandon. And this must be young Mr. Ryan. We've been expecting you. You're the family who requested the telescope suite, yes?" Ryan lit up. "I called ahead weeks ago, asked if there was a way to set up a telescope on the balcony. They'd not only said yes, they'd offered to upgrade us to the Sunset View Deluxe. Our room was incredible. Private balcony, infinity pool, a view that made your heart feel too big for your chest. But the best part? When we walked through the lobby, there it was. The welcome board. Welcome, Ryan and Brandon. And next to it, our photo. Ryan holding his telescope, eyes bright, smile wide. I watched him stop, stare at it, and whisper, "That's me." He didn't say anything else. But he didn't need to. Because in that moment, for the first time, I knew. He felt seen. We spent the next few days living like kings. Breakfasts on the balcony, boat rides, stargazing, gelato at midnight. We even met a family from Spain with a boy around Ryan's age. They built sandcastles together while the parents and I chatted over espresso. No drama, no guilt, no eggshells, just living. And then, on the 3rd night, it happened. We were walking back from dinner when I saw them. Megan and Travis, standing at the front desk, arguing. They hadn't seen us yet. But I saw them. Travis was red-faced. Megan had her phone out, voice rising. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. "We booked months ago," she was saying. "There's supposed to be exclusivity during our wedding week." The clerk looked nervous. "Yes, ma'am, but your reservation begins next week. This is still a public week." "Then why is he here?" she hissed, jerking her head in my direction. That's when she saw me. And the look on her face? Priceless. Shock. Rage. Confusion. Like the universe had broken its promise and let someone less important into the VIP section. She opened her mouth, but I didn't stop. I just turned to Ryan and said, loud enough to carry, "Come on, buddy. Let's go look at the stars." He nodded. "Can I show them the Big Dipper again?" "Absolutely," I said, and we walked past them like they were invisible. That was the moment. That was the shift. Not because I wanted to rub it in, but because I didn't feel anything. No need to explain. No need to defend. No need to shrink. I was just done, and they knew it. But the real power? It came later. Because after that run-in, something happened I never saw coming. Someone else in the family reached out. Someone I didn't expect. And what they told me changed everything. We had 4 days left in Santorini. 4 peaceful, sun-soaked, gelato-drenched days where nothing could touch us. Ryan spent his mornings sketching sailboats from the balcony, and his evenings asking hotel staff if the stars looked different from the rooftop. We were untouchable, floating above the drama, above the noise. At least, we thought we were. But on the 4th morning, While Ryan was at the resort's kids' clay workshop, I got a message. Not from my mom. Not from Megan. From my cousin James. Now, James was always a bit of an outlier. He's 5 years older than me, grew up on the same side of the family, but never really played the golden child game. He moved out of state in his 20s, rarely came to holidays, and always had this quiet, almost annoyed look at family gatherings, like he was just visiting Earth and would leave soon. He was also the only person who sent Ryan a birthday card last year. Just a postcard with a robot on it, and the words, "Keep being awesome." His message was simple. "Hey, been hearing stuff. You around?" I hesitated. Was this another trap? Another attempt to guilt me, dig for details, or maybe bridge the gap on behalf of the family? I didn't reply right away, but then another message came through. Might want to know what Megan's pulling. It's bigger than the Santorini overlap. Give me 10 minutes. That got my attention. I called him. No small talk. No fake pleasantries. Just, all right. I'm only saying this once. You ready? Go, I said. Okay. So, Megan's freaking out. Not just because you booked the resort the week before the wedding. That's part of it, but there's more. Apparently, she told the resort you were crashing her event. She claimed you were a bitter ex-guest who was trying to harass her family after being disinvited for aggressive behavior. She even sent them an email with screenshots, some chopped-up version of your text about Ryan's birthday, and that joke Instagram caption she twisted into a threat. My stomach dropped. What? She tried to get your reservation revoked? Man, James said. Like officially banned from the property. Claimed you were using your son to cause emotional distress for the bridal party. The only reason they didn't act on it was because one of the managers noticed your photo submission, the telescope one. He said it didn't match the story. So they flagged it instead of canceling you. I sat down on the edge of the hotel bed, blood draining from my face. She tried to blacklist me? She tried to erase you. From your own trip. There was a long silence between us. And then James said something that turned everything sideways. I only found out because Mom, Aunt Rachel, was on the call when Megan bragged about it. Said it was the cleanest way to eliminate distractions before the wedding week. Like you were a smudge on her canvas. I didn't know what to say. I felt a strange mix of emotions, shock, betrayal, disgust, but mostly a strange sense of clarity. Megan had finally shown her cards. All of them. There was no gray area now. No plausible deniability. No, maybe she didn't mean it that way. She meant it. And I'd just become a threat to be erased. That was the moment the story shifted again. That was the moment I stopped trying to stay above it. Because some people mistake peace for weakness. Some people need a reminder that silence isn't surrender. So I took a deep breath and said, "James, what do you think about giving Megan a wedding gift she'll never forget?" He laughed. "I was hoping you'd say that." That night, we planned. James had been keeping tabs on family group chats. Not part of them, but his mom would forward him Megan's messages and drama outbursts like it was TMZ. He had screenshots, conversations, even a few email chains between Megan and the resort coordinator. She'd been using our family name to demand comped upgrades, early access, and privacy clauses for her guests. She had even claimed she'd rented out the whole top floor of the resort, when in reality, she only reserved 4 suites. It wasn't just entitlement. It was fraud. She had sold this fantasy wedding to her followers, vendors, and even a small bridal partnership brand who offered to sponsor a portion of the event in exchange for shout-outs and photos. And she had inflated everything, from the venue size to the number of attendees. Claimed they were hosting 200-plus guests. James told me the actual guest list was closer to 47. She even hired a fake PR team email account to send inquiries on her behalf to local media outlets in Santorini, pitching a viral love story turned travel destination wedding. She wasn't just planning a wedding. She was staging a brand launch. And any blemish to the illusion, like, say, her older brother vacationing with his son in the same resort a week before, was a threat to the entire narrative. It all clicked. The desperation, the anger, the sudden silence. Megan wasn't just embarrassed. She was exposed. James sent over everything. Screenshots, PDFs, email threads, even a voice memo from Aunt Rachel saying, "She's really going overboard this time. If this implodes, I'm not covering for her. Let her deal with the mess." And right there, at the center of it all, was her lie about me. About Ryan. That I was using my son to emotionally damage her. That was unforgivable. But it was also useful, because now I had leverage. I wasn't going to ruin her wedding. That would be too easy. No, I wanted something better. I wanted truth. I wanted exposure. But more importantly, I wanted to make sure Ryan saw, without a shadow of a doubt, that standing your ground doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means becoming unshakable. So here's what I did. I called the resort's guest relations manager the next morning, the same man who had welcomed us with lemonade. His name was Leo. I told him everything. I told him about the email smear campaign. I told him about the manipulated screenshots. I told him about the fake influencer brand claims and the wedding guest count inflation that could reflect poorly on their venue if it ever hit social media. And then I sent him the evidence. All of it. Leo was silent for a long time. Then he sighed. I knew something didn't add up, he said. We don't appreciate being misled, especially not when other guests, like yourself, are being targeted. Leave this with me. He didn't say what he'd do. He didn't have to. 2 hours later, I got an email. Subject line, update to your stay, with compliments. They upgraded us again. Penthouse suite, private plunge pool, full spa access, complimentary photography session. And this time, the welcome banner in the lobby changed too. It now read, Welcome, Brandon and Ryan. Thank you for choosing truth. No way that was a coincidence. That evening, I took Ryan down to the beach. We sat in the sand, watching the waves roll in, the sky turning amber and gold. He leaned his head on my shoulder. Dad, he said, do you think they're still mad at us? I smiled. I think they're confused, I said, because they thought we needed them to be happy. He was quiet for a moment. Do we? I shook my head. Not even a little. And he smiled. But the story isn't over. Not yet. Because Megan's wedding is in 3 days. And she doesn't know what's coming. I'm not going to ruin her wedding. I'm going to let her. And I'll be there when the truth walks through the door. We spent our final night in Santorini as if nothing was happening. Ryan and I had dinner at a cliffside restaurant, just the two of us, overlooking the water while the sun melted into the sea like it knew how to take its time. There was a violinist playing something slow and soft nearby, and Ryan kept dipping his bread in olive oil like it was dessert. For a moment, I forgot that just a mile down the coast, Megan's dream wedding was finally beginning. She'd arrived 2 days after her meltdown in the resort lobby, and from what I heard from Leo, and later James, she'd been a hurricane ever since. Apparently, there had been drama about the welcome bags. These aren't my brand colors. A tantrum about the flower arrangements being too Grecian, and a loud public argument with Travis over the exact angle of their drone shot during the vows. That last one happened in full view of a handful of early arriving guests. But Megan was determined. She powered through with the same energy she always had when she wanted to bulldoze over reality. If something didn't fit her vision, she forced it. If someone challenged her version of events, she rewrote them. But this time, she couldn't write me out of the picture, because even though we'd already checked out of the resort, I hadn't left Santorini. Not yet. See, the revenge had already been set in motion. And the best part? Megan herself had handed me every tool I needed. Let's rewind 2 weeks. Before we flew out, when I was sitting in the kitchen at 2 a.m. thinking about all the things I could do to fight back, one idea had lodged itself in the back of my mind and refused to leave. What if her brand sponsors knew the truth? Not in a spiteful, public embarrassment kind of way, but in a quiet, professional, ruin your influencer credibility kind of way. So I did some digging. I found the wedding partnership Megan had secured, a mid-tier luxury brand that focused on destination bridal collaborations. They'd featured her once on their Instagram story. In exchange, she was supposed to tag them in wedding photos, write a blog post, and produce behind-the-scenes content about her luxury wedding process. They even announced it, proud to collaborate with at Wanderlust Megs for her romantic Grecian ceremony this fall. That blog post never happened. Why? Because part of the brand's terms included full disclosure about event details, actual headcount, venue transparency, and no misrepresentation of costs. But Megan had lied. According to the documents James forwarded me, she told them the guest list was at least 180, not counting media or vendors. She'd even claimed she was renting out the entire resort for the week, which was a lie. She had 4 rooms booked. 4. And not only that, she tried to remove another guest, me, by claiming I was a safety concern. So I compiled everything. I put together a clean little folder of documents. Screenshots of Megan's fake headcount emails. The email where she tried to smear me to the resort. Photos proving I had stayed at the resort peacefully with my son. Receipts showing I booked first. Screenshots of her Instagram captions referencing her exclusive buyout of the resort. A quiet email from the resort manager verifying that no such buyout existed. Then, I wrote a short, professional message. Hello. I'm writing out of concern regarding one of your current wedding collaborators. I'm not affiliated with your brand, but I recently became aware of a situation involving misinformation provided to your team by a partner, which could reflect poorly on your organization if left unaddressed. I've included a few documents that clarify the discrepancy between what was promised and what was actually delivered. I have no intention of publicizing this. I simply believe your team deserves the opportunity to review the facts internally. Thank you for your time. Brandon Wells. No emotion. No backstory. No bitterness. Just the truth. I sent it anonymously. Then I waited. Back in Santorini, the morning of the wedding finally arrived. Ryan and I had checked out of the resort the day before, but we moved to a small guest house just 5 minutes away. Still oceanside. Still beautiful. Just quieter. Around noon, James texted me. They're losing it. That brand pulled their IG announcement. Megan's crying. Travis is yelling at his mom. You should see this. I didn't respond. Not yet. Because I had one last thing to do. I walked down to the cafe next to the resort, the one open to public guests, and sat at a small table in full view of the garden where Megan's ceremony was supposed to happen in 2 hours. And then I pulled out my laptop and logged into a private Instagram account, one I hadn't used in months, one Megan didn't know about. And I clicked post. A single photo. Not revenge porn, not a call-out. Just a picture of the resort's welcome board from the week before, with me and Ryan's names glowing across it, his telescope in hand, and the words. Turns out the stars look the same in Santorini. But not everyone sees them. I didn't tag her, didn't name names. But I knew the people who followed her brand account would see it. Because James still followed Megan's business account. And more importantly, so did several of her sponsors. The post got picked up quickly. A few bridal content accounts started commenting things like, wait, isn't this the resort she said she rented exclusively? And this looks like it was from last week. And then, about 30 minutes later, someone reposted it with a side-by-side of Megan's original exclusive buyout post and a screenshot of my welcome board. The caption just said, can't rent the truth. And just like that, the illusion started to crumble. James texted again. Someone at the resort just told Travis the whole wedding might get kicked off the property. Apparently, the brand flagged the event as misrepresented. They pulled out. Publicly. Megan's in full meltdown mode. He followed it up with a photo. Megan, standing at the resort garden entrance, mascara streaking down her face, holding a phone in one hand and a floral bouquet in the other, while 2 men in black polo shirts stood behind her, resort staff. The caption? Not every fairy tale has a happy ending. And still, I said nothing. Still, I posted nothing more. Still, I walked back to the guest house with Ryan, stopped for gelato, and told him we'd visit the volcano tomorrow. Because revenge isn't about shouting. It's about silence. It's about taking back your voice without ever raising it. It's about letting someone bury themselves in the very hole they dug for you. And when I tucked Ryan in that night, after he fell asleep humming some song he made up while brushing his teeth, I stood by the window and watched the fireworks from Megan's reception go off in the distance. Yes, they still had the reception. Yes, people still showed up. But the brand pulled their sponsorship. The photos wouldn't be featured. The blog post was canceled. The luxury influencer launch collapsed before it began. And the resort? They didn't comp the event. They charged Megan for everything. Because the minute her sponsors pulled out, the venue saw no benefit in playing nice. But I wasn't done. Not quite. Because one final surprise was still waiting for her. And this time, she'd have to look me in the eye. I'll tell you about that next. The morning after the wedding, Santorini was unusually quiet. The resort's usual buzz, the soft chatter of guests at breakfast, the clinking of espresso cups, the occasional drone of wedding photographers lining up beach shots, was absent. In its place, an atmosphere of tension, the kind that lingers after a storm clears, but before the damage has been fully counted. Ryan and I were scheduled to leave that afternoon, but we took our time. No rush. We had brunch at the same cafe, the staff now smiling at us with a kind of quiet respect. Maybe they'd heard the story. Maybe they'd simply noticed we were the only family in the last 2 weeks who didn't shout at a waitress over lukewarm wine. I hadn't planned to see Megan again, but fate, or maybe karma, had other plans. We were finishing up our meal when I heard a sharp voice behind me. There you are. I turned. Megan stood 10 feet away, sunglasses on, hair pulled into a tight, defensive bun. No makeup, no audience, just her. And behind her, walking a cautious 3 steps back, was my mom. Of course. Megan stormed up to the table, arms folded so tightly it looked like she was bracing herself from the inside out. You think this is funny? She hissed. You think you won something? Ryan looked up, confused. Megan, I said calmly. Not here. No, she said, eyes flashing. You don't get to control the scene anymore, Brandon. You ruined the most important weekend of my life. You made me look like a liar. You are a liar, I said, still calm. And you didn't need my help to prove it. She blinked. You undermined my entire event. Do you know what it cost me when that brand pulled out? Do you know how many contracts were tied to this weekend? I was supposed to get a spread in Mediterranean bridal. Do you have any idea what kind of traffic I don't care about your traffic, I said. And you should be careful throwing words like undermine around. You try to have me banned from the resort, Megan, with a fake harassment complaint. She opened her mouth, closed it. My mom stepped in, voice low. Brandon, maybe we should talk in private. No, I said. We're done talking in private. That's how this cycle keeps repeating. I turned to Megan. You didn't just go after me. You used your wedding, your own wedding, as a tool to erase us. You told a luxury brand I was endangering you. You tried to convince a resort manager to cancel my stay. You used your influence to lie about guest counts, about exclusivity, about everything. She dropped her sunglasses. You humiliated me, she whispered. You made me look small. I leaned in, voice low. No, Megan, you did that all by yourself. I just stopped covering for you. Ryan shifted in his seat. I gently put my hand on his shoulder and smiled. You okay, bud? He nodded. Is this the part where they pretend it's your fault again? I let out a laugh. I couldn't help it. Megan looked like she'd been slapped. You're pathetic, she snapped. You think any of this matters? People forget. I'll rebuild. You'll always be a bitter, lonely single dad. I stood up slowly, placing my napkin down. And you'll always be someone who thinks weddings are platforms, not promises. Mom stepped forward, voice trembling. Brandon, please. This has gotten so out of hand. I turned to her. No, you let it get out of hand. You stood there while she tried to cut your grandson out of the family. You told me he'd get over being ignored, that I was being dramatic. But when Megan lies about renting out an entire Greek resort, you call it ambition. She looked away. You never protected me, I said. But I'll be damned if I let you do the same to Ryan. I pulled my wallet from my pocket and handed Megan something. It was the original printout of the welcome banner from our suite. The one with Ryan and me. The one the resort framed for us as a souvenir. She looked at it. And for the first time in her life, Megan didn't have anything to say. I picked up my bag. Come on, time to go. He hopped off his chair, still holding his juice. Do we still have time to visit the volcano before the flight? Definitely, I said. As we walked away, I could feel their eyes on my back. Not angry, not even stunned, just silent. And that silence? That was the real win. Because in the end, I didn't destroy her wedding. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't lose my mind. I just existed, in the space she tried to erase me from. And when she realized she couldn't remove us from the narrative collapsed. Later that night, I got one final message. From Travis. A short, blunt text. We're postponing the honeymoon. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because the truth? This wasn't about ruining a wedding. This was about reclaiming our place. And when I tucked Ryan into bed that night, in our quiet little home thousands of miles away, he looked up at me and said, Do you think they'll ever say sorry? I paused, then said, Maybe, but we don't need them to. And he smiled. Not a sad smile. A real one. Because he finally knew the truth I'd been trying to teach him from the beginning. That being forgotten is not the same as being forgettable. We were never the problem. We were just the reminder. That no matter how perfect the photo, you can't filter out the people you chose to leave behind.